it's Shel C from PaperOcotilloStudio, and today I'm sharing with you my artist trading card for the Pick a Stick Challenge Facebook group. That's a group that provides 2 challenges each month, an art journal page and an artist trading card. These are one-word prompts, and the first prompt was stamp. So I decided to use this stamp from Unity, and I have this brand new stamping platform. And the reason that I got it was because I wanted to be able to stamp something in the same position over and over and over so that you can really build up a good impression and maybe even darken the color. The color prompt for this month was slate, and I'm using this archival ink that's called watering can, and I want it to be a little bit darker. So I just used my stamp platform, and this is the first time I've ever used it, to stamp it 3 times in the same place, and that gave me a really clear impression and a dark color, which I think that slate is a dark gray. And it was really easy to clean it up with the baby wipe, you know, where I had over stamped onto the platform. This is the Tim Holtz stamping platform from Tonic Studios. So that's the one that I picked because it was on sale and I got a good deal on it. So then I wanted something in the background as well. This piece of card is 2.5 by 3.5 inches, and it is 140 pound or 300 GSM watercolor paper. So it's a nice heavy stock. And I wanted some more gray, so I just used this Prima clear stamp that's got kind of like a dotty, grungy pattern on it to fill in the background of my card. Some more, you know, watering can colored gray stuff. Now you can see that I've already worked on something and crossed some of those off, and you'll see what happened later when it comes in. So this is a Molotow marker that is supposed to be masking fluid, and I haven't used it in a long time. I did use it a couple times, and then it's just been sitting in my tray, and I wanted to mask out a portion of the image so that it would not get watercolor all over it, because I was planning on using this watercolor. And that is the purpose of this pen, that it's what it's for. Unfortunately, I am impatient, so either I don't wait for it long enough for it to dry, or I do something wrong. Anyway, you'll see what happens. It works out perfectly in the end, but at the time that it happens, I was mad. So I spent a little bit of time flopping it around, trying to get it dry, and I thought it was pretty dry. Seemed okay. So I got out my Dr. P.H. Martin's concentrated watercolors, and these are in dropper bottles, and the next prompt happened to be drop. So I decided to drop color onto my card using these dropper bottles with this watercolor in it, and it is some intense color. It is not messing around. Probably meant to be diluted, like, you know, maybe put in a tray and then diluted down a little bit. I had sprayed the back of the watercolor paper to try to get it not to bend, and then I spritzed it a little bit on the front as well. So the paper is a little bit wet, and perhaps that's what happened. I don't know. Maybe these colors are just so super intense. But when I remove the masking, as you'll see later, the color underneath the masking is not completely white, which it should be, because that's what masking is for. You put it on and it masks the paper, you know, with like a rubbery coating to make sure that where you don't want color stays white. And this is my second attempt, and in a few minutes you'll see my first attempt. It's a little bit different, and we'll talk about it. But I decided that I didn't actually do anything wrong. I just don't understand the properties of the masking fluid in this pen, or I don't understand the properties of this watercolor. It might just be a lot more intense than I expected, but that's what I like about it, because it makes such beautiful bright colors. That's why I like it. So I blotted off where the masking was, and then I dry this with my heat tool. That also might have been my problem. I put heat on it because, you know, I am impatient. I just can't wait for things to dry. I can't walk away and wait for the masking fluid to dry. I can't walk away and wait for the watercolor to dry. I wanted to get this card done, and I wanted to, I just wanted, I don't know. I just have a hard time waiting. That's the reason that mediums like watercolor are probably not really for me. Things that dry quicker like acrylic are a better choice for my personality, but I like to do it all. I like to try it all. So anyway, here I am drying it. Then I'm using a masking fluid eraser or a rubber cement eraser, sticky stuff. It takes off, if you put sticky adhesive in the wrong place, like a tape run or something like that. It removes sticky stuff. So I'm using this to remove the masking. And as you can see as I'm removing it, there is still color underneath there. Why? Why? It should have masked it. Did I not wait long enough for it to dry? Did the fact that I spritzed the back side of it and the front side of it get the fibers underneath the masking wet, and thereby wicking in some of that watercolor? Is the watercolor too intense and it just went right through the masking? I don't know. If I really cared that much, I probably would get a different masking fluid and try this project again to see if it's which thing it is. But you know what? I don't really care that much. I'm just pointing out that it is not the result that I expected. So I went too hard on the butterfly and I pulled off some of the fiber. It was probably still a little bit wet. So I'm drawing back in the butterfly using an extra small Faber-Castell Pitt pen, which is a India ink pen, with a really tiny little nib. And then I look at this and I think, well, it's kind of almost skin color, really. Not that worried about it. So there's my second one, and it started out as part of a tag, as you can see in this picture, that had some acrylic paint on it. And that's the reason that I thought maybe my masking didn't work, because the tag had acrylic paint on it already, and maybe it stuck to it, so that's how come I started over. But I decided that's not it. The same thing happened on the watercolor paper too. So, yeah. So this is my other one. And I'm just going to do them both together. So I got out a little bit of gesso and a wet brush, and I'm just painting in some gesso over the areas where I think that the color is too dark, which is basically the areas that I masked. And I do that on both cards just to kind of smooth out and push back those areas just a little bit, because I was still mad at this point. I was like, grr, I gotta get out the gesso. The area on the second card where it's really dark in the middle of the image is actually acrylic paint that was already on the tag. I thought it would be fun to use one of those tags that I've been picking up extra paint off my gel plate as I do gel printing in all the month of March. I made a bunch of really cool kind of abstract painty cards, and that's what I started out with. But that one section in the middle is just too dark. It's got too much grungy stuff on it right in the middle of everything. So putting some gesso on this one too, and deciding that I'm just going to go ahead and finish it, and it will be an interesting looking mixed media artist trading card also. Not quite as bright as the other one because it's a different paper. The watercolor paper absorbs that watercolor pigment, and the manila cardstock with some acrylic paint on it in areas does not absorb it as much, so it's not as bright. So then once my gesso is all dried up, I go back in with that extra small Faber-Castell Pitt pen again and just draw back in the details of the her little hand and whatever she's holding in her hand. I'm not sure if it's supposed to be like a compact or if it's supposed to be, maybe she's taking a selfie or maybe she's looking at her phone. I don't know. I can't really tell what it is, but she's holding something in her hand. That's all I know. So I touch it back up with the details, and then I'm thinking to myself, okay, I want to add a little bit of color back into the areas just for shadows and things. But my first thought was I'm going to use my Spectrum Noir alcohol markers, but then I realized alcohol markers have alcohol in them, which is a solvent, which will ruin the gesso. Because you can't really use alcohol markers over gesso. I mean, you probably can, but it doesn't turn out well for you. It'll peel up the gesso. So then I remembered these markers that I have. They're like color water brush things, kind of like the clean color markers, only they're Japanese brand from SAI that I got a long time ago, and they're basically a water-based pen with a brush tip. So I decided to use them to add back in a little bit of shadow and highlight into her skin, some pink cheeks, things like that. And the final result I really, really like. And it's because of that color creep that creeped underneath that I like it. It turned out really good, like better than I could have done it myself. So even though you think something happened and it's maybe a mistake, it actually can turn out really great in the end. It makes her skin tone look a lot more realistic to have that little bit of color creep and splotchiness underneath. So I'm adding the skin tone and the pink in, and then I blend with a paintbrush and a little bit moist paintbrush. I blend some of those colors in a little bit, and I just love the result. And I did the same thing on the other card. You won't see me finishing the other card because you've already seen it on this one. Why would you need to see it again? But it's the same process. I used the small marker to draw back in the details. I used these water-based markers to add some color back into the images, and yeah, that's what I did. So with the Pick-a-Stick challenge, remember you do the prompts and you do them in order, but you can add other things in between, at the beginning or in between any step that you want to. So color with markers wasn't in there, but I did it anyway. So the third prompt was scallop. And so I decided to trim down my card a little bit to mount it onto a piece of silver metallic cardstock, and then I used some scissors to scallop the edge for the third prompt, scallop. Scallop to me is like a bumpy edge, or else a seafood, but I'm not going to put seafood on my card today. I mean, not that I wouldn't, but I mean, not actual seafood, but maybe I would draw a scallop if I knew what it looked like. I don't actually know what it looks like when it begins out. It probably, I would guess, starts in a shell, is my thought. But I've only ever seen them when they're cooked, so I don't know for sure. So then putting a backing on my card, I always do this if I think I might give them away. And speaking of giveaways, you can see that I have 2 cards here that are completed, and I will give these away to the 5th and 10th person who leaves a comment below saying that they would like one. So if you would like one of these 2 cards, just leave a comment and I will give it to the 5th and the 10th person who comments. So if you just happen to be lucky, this is again just luck. When you see the video and you watch it and you just happen to be lucky enough to be the 5th or the 10th person who comments, just either send me your address via my email address below the video or my Facebook Messenger thing. Contact me to tell me your address if you are the 5th or the 10th person who happens to comment. So, what was I going to say? Oh, yeah, white Posca pen, Do I do very many projects without it? Not very many. Occasionally, not often. So, I used it to just kind of add some highlights and interest to my image. Then I was looking for some words, and I have these little extra pieces from some Seven Gypsies paper that has a lot of different words. I was trying to figure out what to put on there. Looking at them, I don't know. What should I put? I don't know. Then I decided, well, this stamp set actually comes with 3 different things, 3 little word stamps, and none of them, they're all too big to fit on the card, but I could take this one, stamp it on a scrap piece of cardstock, and then just cut out a word or 2. So that's what I decided to do, is to just, use the stamp set, because why not? And so I like this little saying, sassy, classy, and a bit smartassy. I think that's funny. But I just use the word sassy and the word classy on my 2 cards, just trimming them out with some scissors, sticking them on there. So if you've enjoyed this video, please, of course, remember to leave me a comment. Even if you're not the 5th or 10th person, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already, and turn on your notification bell so you'll be notified when my videos come out most of the time. And, of course, if you know someone who really likes this type of thing, share it with them or pin it to your Pinterest board. That's it for me. Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.